everyone, Justin Crumley here with the Cujo Productions channel. Welcome to another edition of Cujo Productions Sports Talk. As promised, today's the day. It is Friday. It's been a long time coming. I've wanted to do this video for a while, but if you guys hadn't heard, I had the flu. I couldn't do it when I wanted to. Well, I'm alright now. I'm healthy for the most part. Here we go. Michigan football 2017 review is finally here. So the way this is going to work is I'm going to go over the good and the bad. In other words, what I liked, what I didn't like. I'm going to give a final verdict. It's all strictly my own opinion. You don't have to agree with me. I don't mind. So with that said, let's go over the good things first. What did I like about Michigan football this year? Well, a lot of things. And you probably want to know them. So let's get started. Right off the bat, the defense was great this year. It was a top 10 unit. Coming into the season, a lot of question marks, especially on the defense, because they graduated a lot of seniors. The big question became, are they going to be able to be a good, solid unit as a defensive unit? And they were. They were absolutely fantastic. As I said, a top 10 unit. I don't know where exactly they rank. I hear like 3 and then 4, then 7. Point is, they're pretty good. Guys that stick out the most are Maurice Hurst, who is projected to be a first-round pick in the draft, and Rashawn Gary, a guy with a very, very bright future ahead of him if he keeps going the way he's going. This defense is incredibly young, too. There's only, I think, 2 seniors on the defense, Maurice Hurst, and I think there's one more guy. Don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure. But it's a very young defense with a lot of potential and very good things to see. Not to mention, more recruits coming in. The defensive side of the ball was absolutely fantastic for Michigan in 2017. Also, the running game was absolutely fantastic. And this was a year where the offensive line definitely wasn't at their best. I'll get into that later. This team had 4 or 5 different running backs, and they made the most of it. This is classic Michigan football. Running the ball has always been a key, and they definitely did not disappoint. Guy that sticks out to me, Karan Higdon, absolutely fantastic. I loved watching him play. He is so fun to watch. Chris Evans also stood out really well. Ty Isaac, who I'm bummed to see go. I believe he is a senior. And also, Kareem Walker also got some decent reps in. Overall, not a whole lot to complain about when it comes to the running game. Very good this year. A definite strength on an otherwise pretty lackluster offense. They also boasted a winning record at 8-4. Unfortunately, finished 4th in the division. The Big Ten East is definitely a very strong division. And considering all the problems that the team had on offense, which again I will get into in just a minute, they boasted an 8-4 record when a lot of analysts I saw at the beginning of the year only pegged them for about 8 or 9 wins. So you could say that it's kind of a failure that they only lived up to what was expected. But considering all the question marks on defense and just how bad the offense minus the running game was, I think an 8-4 record is really not all that bad. And on that note, they did manage to get a bowl game, a New Year's Day bowl, the Outback Bowl against South Carolina. This is actually a rematch from 2013, Jadeveon Clowney's big game. I think we all remember that. Michigan fans like myself would rather not, but nonetheless, I'm looking forward to this. And say what you will about Michigan not deserving it or whatever. I'm not here to argue that point. I'm just saying I'm very happy to see that they managed to get themselves into a pretty high-profile bowl game. I'm looking forward to this one. I'd love to see some sweet revenge. And I'm really excited for this one. Let's talk about Jim Harbaugh. This is where things are going to get a little polarizing. There's a number of Michigan fans that really don't like what he's done so far. They think he's a failure. And then there's the other half that thinks He's absolutely not a failure. He's done the best that he can, and Michigan's on the right track. I am in the crowd that actually thinks he's done a good job. And in 2017, I mean, given what he was handed, I can't really falter the guy. Would I have liked to have seen more? Yes, I would have liked to have seen another 10-win season, maybe wins against Michigan State and Ohio State. But I think when you factor in what he had to go through this season with Wilton Speight going down, John O'Korn sucking, and Brandon Peters getting injured, the guy definitely had the odds stacked against him, and to manage to pull an 8-4 season is still pretty impressive. Yes, say what you will about them playing Maryland and Indiana and all these other bad teams or whatever. Actually, Indiana wasn't too bad this year, and Michigan barely beat them. But anyway, they also beat Florida. They were hanging with Wisconsin for a bit until Brandon Peters got injured. And, I mean, they had a 14-0 lead on Ohio State and unfortunately blew it. I mean, there's not much else I can say. I choose not to view Harbaugh as a failure. If you look at his record throughout his entire career at Michigan as a head coach so far, he's been anything but. But as far as this season goes, was it a disappointment? Kinda, sorta. But I don't think it was a bad season. He still managed to go 8-4. And yeah, I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt on this one. I think he did very well with what was given to him. All right, those are the good points. Let's get into the things I did not like, otherwise known as the bad point. I've said this throughout the entire video. The offense, minus the run game, very disappointing, really bad. To start, I think I mentioned this before in the video. I honestly forgot. The offensive line was atrocious this season. You think about this. Wilton Speight got injured. Brandon Peters got injured. That's 2 injuries. That's inexcusable. The fact that the run game was so great honestly kind of speaks volumes to how talented our running backs were, because this offensive line was just not good this year. Thankfully, they fired the offensive line coach, or they let him go. I don't know if they fired him, but the offensive line coach isn't coming back, so hopefully we get a better one that can develop and create better linemen. Historically speaking, Michigan has great offensive linemen. I mean, look at the NFL. Jake Long was a very highly touted offensive lineman at one time. Taylor Lewan is doing some great things in Tennessee. I mean, there's no reason for Michigan to have a bad offensive line. Another guy, it just popped in my head, Steve Hutchinson. When he was playing, he was pretty good. I mean, again, historically speaking, Michigan's been able to produce some good old linemen, and I don't know what it was. This year just wasn't a good year for the offensive line. Also, the wide receivers, they weren't really as great as I was hoping. To be fair, though, the quarterback situation didn't help, so I can't throw too much shade at the wide receivers, but I'm not going to give them any credit for the underperforming. That being said, there were a number of freshman wideouts, so definitely some room to improve. I hope to see it, but as it stands, kind of a disappointment this year. Let's talk about the quarterback situation, because I know I've mentioned that a number of times in this video, starting with Wilton Speight. Started off not too great. The red zone numbers were not good on him. You could tell he was definitely struggling. Then he got injured against Purdue. A very ugly injury, very scary situation. He's transferring now. I would say this is kind of a disappointment on Speight's part, but not a lot to say. He got hurt. End of story. Now let's talk about John O'Korn. This was the 5th-year senior transfer student from Houston. I don't remember there being a whole lot of hype behind this guy. He was a backup for a reason. And oh boy, did it ever show. I don't want to completely rip this kid a new ass because I mean he's a kid. He's probably the same age as I am. I don't know. But to say that he sucked this year is definitely an understatement. He came into the game against Purdue and looked pretty good. Looked really solid. Ran the offense very well. We were all excited to see it. And then the Michigan State game happened. Oh, God, was that a mess. I mean, oh, just awful. I think he threw 4 interceptions that game. Just terrible. They had 5 turnovers that whole game. I know one was a fumble, so I think if I remember correctly, he threw 4 interceptions. Just an ugly game. And then there was the Ohio State game. He threw the game-losing interception, and just overall, definitely not a good year for John O'Korn. He ended up getting benched for Brandon Peters. We'll talk about him in just a second. But yeah, John O'Korn, man, ugh, just an ugly year with this guy. Now let's talk about Brandon Peters. He didn't really play a whole lot this year. He actually came in for John O'Korn in the middle of the game against Rutgers, I want to say. I believe it was Rutgers. Because O'Korn was struggling like crazy. But, yeah, it was Rutgers. Now I remember. Anyway, he looked really good. Looked really solid, very mobile, good arm. Definitely a guy that I'm excited to see in the future. I mean, if he plays, I mean, there's... it could be quite the quarterback competition coming into next year. But anyway, what I saw of him for the short amount of time he played, he looked pretty good. I don't have a whole lot of complaints. I thought he was a pretty solid quarterback. I was extremely bummed when he got injured against Wisconsin, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he does in the bowl game against South Carolina. Lastly, I want to talk about the losses to Michigan State and Ohio State. Never a good year for us Michigan fans when we lose to our 2 biggest rivals. And this is the closest I'm going to come to criticizing Harbaugh. He has a 1-5 record now against these 2 teams. It's just not a good look. I want to see some improvement on that, very much so. I mean, not much else to say. It was just hard to watch, you know, because especially the Michigan State game, I think they could have won if they had a decent quarterback. As far as Ohio State goes, same thing. They could have won if they had a quarterback that could move the field, run the game. I mean, who knows? You know, the defense, I mean, they had a 14-point lead against Ohio State and they blew it. So that statement that I just made is a little less believable than the Michigan State one. I think they easily could have won the Michigan State game if the offense had showed up. As far as the Ohio State game goes, I mean, I've already said it. I think the quarterback, John O'Korn, just kind of blew it away, and they gave up. They were up 14-0. They got too comfortable. They let Ohio State come back. It is what it is. I don't like to admit it, but it's a bad thing, and I want to see improvement on this. So my final verdict, I would say Michigan did roughly what they were expected. Whether or not that's a good or bad thing, honestly, I think it's alright. They had a winning season, had a top defense. So I would have liked to have seen more, especially out of the offense, especially against Michigan State and Ohio State. Very much out of the quarterbacks. But what can you do? It is what it is. Definitely am looking forward to the future, especially with Shea Patterson and possibly a few other Ole Miss recruits coming in. Very excited to see how that goes. At the moment, we do not know if Shea Patterson will be eligible for this upcoming season. It's definitely going to be interesting to see how it plays out, though, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. So, yeah, we'll see. As for this, well, I'm pretty happy with how the season turned out. I'm supportive of this team. I always will be, and I continue to be. I'm excited for the bowl game And for next season, let's do this. Alright, guys, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. It really does mean a lot to me. Be sure to check out my Facebook page, my Twitter page, my Instagram, and my Redbubble page. Links to all that down below in the description section. Have a great day, guys. If you're not having a great day, I hope it gets better. Until next time, I'm Justin Crumley, and this is Cujo Productions, signing out.